Satoru Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen, who's also known as the Honored One, is a character infamous for being so outlandishly strong he becomes untouchable, quite literally. Gojo possesses an ability called Infinity, which makes him unreachable to any harmful entity by infinitely dividing the space between them. But what if I told you that even such a virtually impenetrable perfect shield still has some weaknesses? What if I told you that certain characters with unique abilities can bypass this perfect defense? But wait, how can you bypass something that is infinite? You don't need to worry, as this will be answered soon, but before we reach that answer, we first have to understand the true ins and outs of this ability for a fair and open discussion. Let's start by answering the question about what Gojo's technique exactly is. Infinity is a manifestation of the Achilles and the tortoise paradox. Let's use an analogy to explain what this paradox means. Imagine a harmful entity at a distance of 10 meters from Gojo. The entity should normally reach Gojo by simply traveling 10 meters towards him. But Infinity lets the space between the two be divided limitlessly, meaning if the entity covered half the distance between itself and Gojo, in 1 second it would be 5 meters away from him. Then in the next second it would be 2.5 meters away, after which it will divide again and reach at a distance of 1.25 meters from the target. This way, it would keep traveling closer and closer to Gojo, but it would never truly reach him, because the space between them would keep getting infinitely divided. This will make the entity appear as though it's getting slower and slower as it's reaching towards Gojo, when in reality, its speed isn't slowing down, but the number of divisions of space it is traveling is increasing, therefore giving the illusion of deceleration. But just this paradox isn't the complete representation of the ability. Infinity in its basic form is a spherical spatial force field that's wrapped around Gojo like a transparent balloon. This force field has a physical form and can be influenced physically. To get entangled in the paradox of infinity, an entity first has to go through the spatial force field, or else the paradox would not apply to it. This is exactly why Toji was able to contact and cut through infinity with his inverted spear of heaven, as his dagger contacted the force field before getting entangled in the paradox. Now that's it for the complete explanation of Gojo's technique. Let's talk about the abilities and characters that can directly bypass it. I will be dividing this section into 3 parts. The first group of abilities will be the ones that will, without a doubt, bypass infinity. In the second stage, I will be talking about abilities that can have a little bit of debate as we dabble in ideas such as verse equalization, which may or may not counter it. Lastly, the third group of abilities would be able to damage Gojo without truly bypassing infinity, or might indirectly bypass it for different reasons. Starting with a no-brainer. To travel through infinite distances, you'll need infinite speed. Henceforth, any ability that lets the user attack with infinite speed or an emulation of that will bypass infinity. For example, if Pucci from Jojo's Bizarre Adventure achieves absolute acceleration, his infinite speed will obviously cancel out Gojo's infinite distance. Furthermore, abilities such as teleportation from Sasuke or Law or time stop from Dio or Jotaro can also bypass it. These abilities are essentially emulating the effects of infinite speed by manipulating space or time. This is possible because Gojo's infinity doesn't actually produce limitless space in the present, but rather, it keeps dividing more and more space the closer an entity gets to Gojo. This means even different types of space-time or reality manipulation, like in the case of Whitebeard, Giorno, or Luffy, can also bypass it. By breaking Joch cutting space, reverting time and reverting the divided space, or turning the spatial force field into rubber. After this comes the second group, where we are using verse equalization. This doesn't necessarily mean we are equaling different power systems as the same, but rather it means very similar abilities between 2 different shows will be assumed to have similar effects. For example, domain amplification from JJK is extremely similar to armament haki from One Piece. Both are an ability that allows the user to coat themselves in a veil of their power that allows them to nullify the ability of an opponent they touch. So as long as someone more powerful than Gojo uses domain amplification, haki, or anything similar on him, infinity should automatically be countered. Wait a minute, do you not remember how domain amplification exactly works? No need to worry, as you can just read all of that from your downloaded manga chapters through our Bloopworm app. Getting back to the point, weapons like the inverted spear of heaven are practically just a Walmart version of truth-seeking orbs from Naruto Shippuden. Both of these weapons nullify or disable abilities they come in contact with, and they don't even have the requirement of being more powerful than Gojo. They should just directly disable infinity upon contact. Finally, the third group of miscellaneous abilities that may or may not directly bypass it, but they can still affect Gojo. For example, sure-hit attacks, such as domain expansions, or Law's rooms, ignore practically any kind of defense against their abilities inside their barrier, unless you have a counter. Then comes the abilities that do not travel, like Death Note from, well, Death Note, and Big Mom's Soul Sucky Wucky from One Piece, etc. Finally, stuff such as fate manipulation or the higher dimensionality of entities such as Tusk Act 4 might just kill Gojo by giving him bad luck or opening infinity like a book, and Saitama might just be able to kick away infinity like a damn football. So what do you guys think? Is there any problem with one of the abilities, or are there more abilities I forgot to mention? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.